What's up everybody and welcome to another video. Back in 2021, we got to visit Squid Industries and tour their entire facility. We got to see the process of Balisong creation from start to finish, and I got the chance to make my very own Squiddy. Wow. Well, make might be a strong word. I more got to assemble my own Squiddy, much like the Avengers, which is still really cool. I now have a lifelong connection to this plastic Balisong because I put it together myself. However, I've always wanted to do more. Squid Industries is the biggest Balisong company by far, and collaborating with them in a direct way has obviously been a dream of mine and Brandon's. So imagine our surprise in January of 2023 when an email showed up in our inbox from Lucas simply titled, collab? I don't know about Brandon, but I think I stared slackjaw at that email for like an hour before replying.
Oh, not only was I slack-jawed, I still am, and will be from this day until my last day.
That's true. Obviously we said yes, and so began more than a year of work on a wholly new addition to the Squiddy lineup. This is the Squiddy-WH, and it is, in my opinion, I dropped it. The best plastic Squiddy in the entire lineup. We put a ton of thought and effort into this thing. As a content creator, I understand that my name itself has a sort of power that I need to be aware of and respectful towards so that I can be respectful to you, my audience. I don't want to work on anything that isn't worthwhile to the community. Our previous two products, the Vulp and Vulp Pro, both exist for extremely specific purposes, giving them a reason to exist well beyond simply making money. With this opportunity from Squid, I also found something that was worthwhile. Lucas gave us free range to change literally whatever we wanted about the Squiddy, and I saw the opportunity to create something that could elevate the format of this plastic Balisong to a whole new level. The Squiddy lineup has had some very interesting variants over the years, some of which have stuck around and some haven't. Rest in peace to the Squiddy G and the Squiddy C.
Oh, well.
But it's mostly all just been a change in just the material being used or a new color with the same exact handle design and the same exact Squiddy B style blade. This is not just some simple reskin of a previous product. This is an entirely new Squiddy with new design, new features, and new materials. In fact, the first thing I'd like to talk about are these new materials. As you can see, the Squiddy-WH has these wonderful orangish red colored handles. Previous recolors of the Squiddy B have had a similar look, but it was achieved with coatings that just didn't stand up to time or any kind of beating, as a matter of fact. As you can see from Brandon's Squiddy PDP, it literally just has a bunch of little black spots all over it. I didn't want to use any coatings on the Squiddy-WH. Instead, I actually had Squid go through the process of sourcing orange Delrin for us to use. This specific color of Delrin is the only orange on the market, and it has a very interesting hue that actually makes it look either orange or red depending on the lighting of your environment, which I think is pretty cool. Because of this new material, the handles of this Squiddy are as durable as ever and will never lose their color, just like Brandon.
Well, I got unfortunate news. I'm kind of fucked up. Yeah.
Unlike Brandon.
I'm still fucked up, but less.
The design behind this thing was extremely important to me. I wanted to create something that was wholly unique and hadn't existed in the Squiddy lineup before. The process for this began with taking a look at the blade. The design language of the Squiddy has been pretty set in stone for a while now. Since the beginning, the blade has always featured a face of some kind with no patterns on the handle. I wanted to turn this idea on its head and do something more unique that would also bring about more functionality. I was brainstorming a bunch of different ideas for what this blade could actually be until I finally landed on this concept of a techno-inspired paw print. The design itself is based on the way an actual fox's paw looks. One of my artist friends helped me come up with a number of stylized concepts for it before I actually brought it into Illustrator to create the final vectorized design. There are a lot of small details here. Each paw pad was carefully crafted to have an angular design while still being possible to mill on a CNC. The claw tips went through multiple iterations to ensure their own durability even when dropped on something hard like concrete. Everything down to the size of each hole and the thickness of the outside of the blade was considered to make sure that it not only looked great, but also performed great too. Making the blade design was a process for sure, but once we had it locked in, once we had it locked in, it pretty much stayed the same. In fact, the only major change from the first prototype to the final product was the addition of these awesome little orange O-rings that add an extra pop of color to the silence mod. However, the same cannot be said for the handles. Designing a blade is easy enough in this case, as it has a relatively small impact on the flipping performance, but the handles needed to be as good as possible in both design and functionality, which is hard to do. Oh. No.
You know what I am.
No.
You know what I am.
No.
You know what I've done.
No.
You know that I'm hard to.
This is the very first prototype of the Squiddy-WH. As you can see, it was made before the orange Delrin even arrived at Squid HQ. The handle design is interesting. It has very intense jimping, which is what I was going for, and it has a pretty cool minimalist design created by the Squid team featuring my logo in the center. Unfortunately, this just didn't do it for me for a number of reasons. The first of which is that jimping. It is just way too intense, feeling almost like sandpaper on your fingers when you do ladders. Sure, it added plenty of grip, but there's a point where that is just too much, man.
I'm too much.
Why can't you be normal? The pattern was cool and all, but I wanted something that both matched the Squid industry's design language a bit better and also had a bit more functionality in general. And so we went back to the drawing board, going over as many iterations of this design as there are Brandon clones in the wild. By the way, as an aside, it is a concerningly large number. It's kind of becoming a problem. We actually set up a catch and release system where we offer free spaying and neutering, so if you find a feral Brandon clone out there in the wild, please call our toll-free number right here to get connected with a Brandon collection specialist. Remember, it is important to face these kinds of problems head on. Each of us needs to do our part in this. The worldwide population of birds depends on it. When I was considering new options for this handle design, I took a look at the core of Squid's own design language as inspiration. What I discovered is that something pretty consistent across a lot of their designs is a line and dot pattern. This can be seen on things such as the Crackerakin, the Squid Trainer, Nautilus, and heck, even their logo. You can see from these early design photos what I was trying to achieve, and everything really started to come together once Brandon took the mock-up and implemented part of the blade design into the handles and made the lines match the geometry of this arrow.
That's right. I may do shots of Loctite and lubricant and balisongs like an absolute moron, but I can design a thing every now and again, and also eat whole balisongs. Again.
No. This geometric line and dot pattern matches both other Squid products and the new paw design at the same time. It is also functional, adding a surprising amount of grip to the faces of the handles because of its size and depth. With a reduction in the overall depth of the jimping to make it more comfy, this final design was ready for the initial launch. We dropped a first production batch of 100 limited units, which sold out within 2 minutes of the launch time. That was crazy. The reason we did this limited release at first was because, well, the Squiddy-WH wasn't actually fully ready. You see, it was missing one important final factor: you. We wanted to get feedback from the community itself on the Squiddy-WH to ensure that it was as good as possible. So when people started getting their first production units, we listened to all of the feedback we could get and implemented your suggestions into the final product. And so here it is, the final version of the Squiddy-WH. Unlike the first production run, this is not a limited edition thing. The Squiddy-WH is an official part of the Squid industry's lineup until further notice. Some of the biggest changes we made due to community feedback are things like the addition of a bite handle marker similar to the one on the Squiddy-AL.
Ow!
Oh, okay. We also added slightly more intense jimping than this first release version, bridging the gap between too much and not enough. And we removed a specific spot on the inside jimping to keep it from causing dents in this orange O-ring. The biggest change though was to that of the handle rounding. It's a bit hard to see, but we actually substantially increased the rounding on the edges of each handle. This seemingly minor change actually has a major impact on the performance, making it feel much more comfy in the hands and smooth when doing tricks, like fanning. Speaking of that performance, I feel like it's probably time to talk about flipping.
Give me a why!
Why?
This is why, bitch, Yahoo!
Holy shit! This is the best flipping plastic Squiddy in the entire lineup. Now, you might notice the inclusion of the word plastic in there. This is very intentional. You see, the Squiddy-AL, which is made out of aluminum, is a better flipper than the Squiddy-WH in some ways. I wanted to be clear about that, especially with the price difference between these two being as close as $5. However, to me, the Squiddy-AL isn't necessarily a pure Squiddy at its core. One of the biggest features of the Squiddy is its travelability. You should be able to bring it anywhere with you in the world and even carry it onto airplanes without security so much as batting an eye. AL here breaks that rule in favor of better weight distribution due to being made from metal. Sure, you can try bringing it onto a plane with you, but you are playing a dangerous game of chance with your $80 toy if the TSA agent decides that it's not okay to be brought in today. The Squiddy-WH, by comparison, barely even shows up on TSA scanners. I've brought it with me on many trips in my carry-on bag and have never had an issue. Now, that doesn't mean you're 100% in the clear, since the TSA loves to just randomly take things for literally no reason, almost like they just want it to themselves, those cheeky bastards. But I bring all this up to say that the hole that the Squiddy-WH is trying to fill is very different than what AL here is doing. This is something that is different from the whole lineup, leaning much closer to something like the Swordfish than being an actual Squiddy. The WH, on the other hand, is aiming to give you exactly that, a pure Squiddy experience at the best it can possibly be. And it can be really good. This thing has been so much fun to work on and flip all the while. I've actually been using it a lot in my daily flipping as a practice tool. The increased grip allows the performance to mirror my other knives much more than the older Squiddy models did. And that means that I can attempt harder tricks on this thing before moving on to a metal trainer or live blade. Back in the day, I actually learned to ladder on the original Squiddy. Its lightweight meant that I could figure out the finger motions first without having to work on anything else. The Squiddy-WH is even better for learning these style of tricks due to that jimping. It carries momentum just as well as the Squiddy B, meaning it's a very performant flipper in all areas, such as rollovers, aerials, chaplains, and even parabolics. Ka-chow. It even outperforms the Squiddy-AL in some key ways. For instance, that jimping really does help with ladders as compared to only texturing on the sides of this thing. The increase in rounding also makes it much more performant in fanning, and it just feels so comfortable in the hand now. If we were to change anything else permanently about the Squiddy-WH, it would probably just be to remove the handles entirely and instead attach 6 blades together so you could use it like a throwing star. But Squid Industries would never make anything like that, would they? Oh my god. Now, this is of course the most expensive model of the Squiddy, and that comes down to a few things. Squid had to rework their whole design process. Squid had to rework their entire Squiddy production process just to make the Squiddy-WH, with much more machining time and finishing going into each one. This isn't something that's mass-produced in China. This is entirely manufactured, assembled, and distributed by Squid Industries in the United States. And sure, there are a lot of great plastic balisongs on the market these days. Zippy continues to put out some great stuff, and Flip Forge in particular is creating some fantastic, very customizable customizable 3D printed balisongs that continue to get better and better. So it's up to the community to decide what the best plastic balisong is, and of course there's great metal trainers too, like the Vulp or the Canyon from Nibali's that can be had for $65 or less. The Squiddy-WH isn't aimed to be the best budget balisong. It's supposed to be the best and most premium Squiddy. And even Lucas agrees that we kind of nailed it with this one. At the end of the day, I really feel like we accomplished everything we were looking for with the Squiddy-WH. From the feel in the hand, the design, and the flipping. We are very proud of this final product, and I really think you'll like it too.
Uh-oh. 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 It's lubricated now.
I want to extend a huge thank you to Lucas and the team over at Squid Industries. Working with them on this project has been an absolute pleasure, and I am very thankful that they put up with the small changes that we requested throughout this entire development process. The Squid team also did an incredible job designing the packaging for the Squiddy-WH. As you can see, it comes in this awesome custom orange box with a small bag, a bite handle marker, and an extra black O-ring for those that don't like the orange one that it comes with. The attention to detail here feels awesome, and I am very glad to be able to work with such an incredible team. Hey, so by the way, I just wanted to say that the Squid discount code that we have, squid.willhirsch.gay, does not apply to the Squiddy-WH. However, it still applies to all of the other Squid products. So if you want to get a Squid product and you want a discount and you want to support us at the same time, definitely click the link in the description for that. Also, the Squiddy-WH should be in stock at the time that this video was released. So definitely check the Squid website because they are dropping Squiddy-WHs alongside this video. And if you're not watching this video when it came out, still check the website because we're doing our best to keep them in stock in general. Okay, bye. I've said this before in the video about the Vulp Pro, but collaborations like this allow us to keep existing. YouTube ad revenue for this channel is not sustainable at all, and so the bulk of our support ends up coming directly from you through purchases of products like these. So thank you so much to each and every one of you who has bought a Squiddy-WH already, to those of you who have given us your feedback, and to those of you looking to buy one now. Some people in the community have also made videos about their thoughts on the Squiddy-WH, and we'll have some of those linked in the description so you can get some less biased opinions than ours. However, I do want to bring up that we wouldn't be talking about any product, including our own, if we didn't genuinely believe it was worth your time and money. If it sucked, we would definitely tell you, as we have done in the past. Now, the other side of our support system is that of our incredible Patreon supporters. For just $3 a month, each of our patrons support us more than 1,000 views on one of our videos. The product sales are great and all, but Patreon is the most direct way that you can help us keep doing this kind of content. So if you want to join awesome folks like Lycan Blades and Jake Flips on our private community Discord server, or get videos like these days in advance of the public, consider donating. Thank you so much to all of our current Patreon supporters. You all are the absolute best. But that's pretty much it for the moment. I'm Will Hirsch, reminding you, help control the Brandon population. Have your Brandon spayed or neutered.
I'm spayed and neutered, and I'm only terminally ill, just as God intended.
We'll see you next time on willhirsch.gay.